Today's cardinal lesson is going to really talk about a retirement income strategy using Social Security and withdrawals from a taxable IRA. And so I have a client that I'm working with right now, and these people are so happy. They're just, as they say, pleased as punch. And they're very fortunate that they had $940,000 in his 401k. And this guy now is making about $30,000–$40,000 a year. So he's not making a lot of money now. And so my first questions when one of my agents brought this client is, how do they have so much money in their 401k? And really the statement he was showing me was only $880,000. So between the time they produced that statement and a few months later, it had grown to $940,000. Well, when I dug into the history of this a little more, when he left his job of real substance compared to the one now, she had kind of taken over managing the 401k, and she put it all on, afterburners. I mean, she put it in the most aggressive investments that she could, and not really knowing what she was doing. I mean, it's very fortunate. It's a blessing that things didn't go the other way, but this thing only had, like 2 or 3 years ago, like $500,000 in there. And she took a lot of risk at just the right time, and the market went berserk. But of recent, it just, by the time we actually wrote this case, we actually had less than $940,000. And so now that they had grown it to this large amount, not totally knowing what they were doing, now they sat around and worried about it. So their core question when they came to me, this lady was a Medicare supplement customer, and been talking to one of my agents about this for several months, is that she'd like him to retire. He's a little younger than her. He's 60 and a half. She turned 65 back in March, and his job is hard work now. And she's just thinking, with all this money, she knew she had a real tax problem. She knew that she couldn't leave it invested like it's invested. They also told her at the 401k is once you take it out, all of it's got to come out. She didn't know where she was going to put it. And then she'd talked to a few people, and you start putting just a number on that. You say, well, how much can you earn? 5%. And you got to do pretty well to conservatively earn 5%. But just if you do that, that's less than $50,000. You go down to like 3%. I mean, that's like $27,000. That's not enough to retire on. So one of the things that she had thought about doing is just drawing all of it out, paying all the tax, having $500,000–$600,000 left, and then just start spending money, and then see how long that lasts them or whatever. And I didn't think that was a very good idea. Okay, and I pointed it out to her. But their real core question, once I started working and getting some boundaries around them, they need $5,000 a month to live after taxes. So in just doing a nickel analysis, you'd think that they probably need to make 7 or 8 a month, or earn that or whatever, to net $5,000 after taxes until we work this financial plan, because the financial plan really has them paying very little in income taxes going forward. Now, what biggest problem that I was worried about, and then I impressed upon them and that they were worried about till we got this plan going, is just running out of money. Is one of them living up into their 80s, and they're just out of money because they've been spending too much. So we wanted to make sure that that's not going to happen to them. But yet, we wanted to make this available to them and pay all their taxes. So what we came up with was this 3-bucket strategy with the $940,000. And you say, well, why do you need to put it in 3 different buckets? Well, bucket number 1 is for their short-term needs. Like if he retires like now, or 6 months from now, he retires before he can get Social Security. There's a lot of uncertainties over the short term of like when he's going to retire, and then how much money they're going to need to pay for things to get started. This bucket number 1 is just in a managed account, invested very conservatively, and It's just designed that you can make all the withdrawals you want. You don't have to pay fees, that kind of thing. Bucket number 2 is an annuity that has a guaranteed monthly income if you started at certain points. So we picked a point 5 years out, where 5 years out it's going to produce $24,812 a year, just $2,000 a month, which is the amount of money they need in addition to their Social Security to then pay a little bit of tax and still have their $5,000 a month. So it took $340,000 in bucket number 2 to guarantee $24,000 plus a year, and that is guaranteed for the rest of both of their lives. So we can get an insurance company to write that. If one of them's still kicking at 100, 35, 40 years from now, they're still going to be getting checks for a little over $2,000 a month from this. Even if the account balance is long gone, the insurance company's guaranteeing that. So we can add some certainty that they're not going to run out of money and income. It becomes like their Social Security check. Then bucket number 3 is another annuity, but this is an accumulation annuity that has some income provisions, but it's really just designed for protection of principal, so they're not going to lose anything year to year. It's just guaranteed, but yet they're going to get some nice growth in it in years when the markets are performing well. They're going to get some growth, and that's just going to stack up, and that's going to be there as a slush fund to either start an income on or just you can make 10% free withdrawals of 10% of the amount every year. And once the thing's 10 years old, you make all the withdrawals you want. Now, of course, keep in mind you got to pay taxes on that, but this creates a fund for the long term that's very flexible, that they can, just based upon needs, they can draw out money for inflation, medical expenses, that sort of thing. So we got the 3 buckets, and really bucket number 1 is all of a sudden what brought her the most joy, because she wasn't even talking about retiring now, but once I showed her that they could have this and he could retire next month, and then that would just mean that we're going to start pulling enough money out of this 70 grand, we're going to pull out 70 grand on an annual basis, or we're going to pull out money out of this bucket number 1 to meet our needs. And then, it's really going to be hard to spend our way through that, because being 60 and a half, he can file for Social Security at 62. And I usually don't recommend clients start their Social Security at 62, but I am this person because his wife, the lady of the house, she doesn't have a very big Social Security benefit. She's going to be filing on his record, and he's got a nice record. It'll be diminished because I'm starting at 62, but she's going to get the 50% spousal benefit, which he can't get. She's 65 now. She'll be almost 67 when this happens, and she will, between the two of them, they're going to get like $3,800, $3,900 a month, starting in October 2022. So when I'm trying to get this $5,000 a month, I'm going to have, in a year and a half, I'm going to have $3,800 of that paid by the Social Security Administration to them. So I only got to make up $1,200 plus the income taxes they got to pay, which aren't going to be much. So just doing a combination of Social Security and IRA distributions, where these have some flexibility, you get to decide what your IRA distributions are. You can make that decision, or she can make that decision. I'm going to help her with it, but this is the plan, and this plan has some flexibility in case things change. But what I did is I made the assumptions for this board that he would retire at the beginning of 2022, which is just like from right now when this video is being made in June. That's just 7 months away. And what we're going to do is we're going to take 70 grand out of bucket number 1. We're just a withdrawal, so if it's just only has 300 in it, it's going to be down to 230 by the end of 2022. We're going to pay $10,000 in income taxes, and so I mean, it's as simple as that. They got their $5,000 a month. Now in 2023 to 2026, they're going to have $39,200 worth of Social Security. So we're going to take $24,000 out of this bucket number 1. So that's a lot less than 70. And we're only going to pay $4,000 in income tax. So the income tax are going to come down because most of that Social Security is not taxed. And then the other income, only $24,000 withdrawal, their income taxes are going to be less. And they're still going to net 60 grand. And then at the beginning of 2027, this $24,000 a year from bucket number 2 is going to kick in. That's guaranteed to go on for life. And then we won't have to make any more withdrawals out of this. We haven't made any withdrawals out of this. And this bucket number 2 is kicking out enough money, if things haven't drastically changed in 5 years, between Social Security and this guaranteed income for life, they still have their $5,000 a month. Now, what's probably going to happen is in some of the years, I'm going to have them pulling out more of the IRA out of bucket number 1. So they probably won't have 163, because what we're going to do is we're going to pull some of it out because the taxes are so low, and we may just save the difference over here, and we're going to create another bucket, and this is money we already paid taxes on, so that we can, manage it. We could also do a Roth conversion with some of this if we wanted to do that, which is effectively raising their income because tax rates are so low. So I kind of got down into the details a little more than I like to in one of these things, but let me summarize, is that a lot of people, they really underestimate the value of this Social Security and the value of the fact that it's taxed generally at lower rates, or sometimes with no taxes, based upon what your other income is. And so when you put those two things together, or you put the Social Security together, along with the distributions from the IRA, which you're in control of, I can help you with, is going to give people enough money to live. And so we have a lot smaller drain on this overall IRA. And so, people, if you got $300,000-400,000 in your IRA, $500,000, $200,000, maybe your Social Security check is different. Maybe you have some other savings. These people don't have much in savings other than this IRA. Some of you may have a much smaller IRA, but you've got other savings and other assets that you've already paid taxes on. Now we got another bucket to draw from. So this is how we put income plans together. And I am excited about this for this couple, is that they're going to be maintaining a lot of their principal over a long period of time, and they're diversified amongst these buckets, and they're really getting what they want. I'm Hans Scheil, and I thank you for listening.